Welcome back to Fast Market here on the Schwab Network. It's time for cash tags. For that, let's bring in our next guest. It's going to be Andy Swan, co-founder of LikeFolio. Welcome back to the show, Andy.
Thank you.
All right, so we're talking another airline today, and that's United. This stock's pulled back over 40% from highs that we saw just 3 months ago. Same type of setup that we saw in Delta, Andy, last week. That stock got a nice pop post earnings. What kind of data do you guys have here in United ahead of these results?
Yeah, really similar setup to Delta, and I think we did a good job on Delta, and a lot of the same tailwinds are impacting United Airlines. We really see United kind of following Delta's lead in terms of leaning into a premium strategy so that they can charge, some users, some customers a lot more to be on the same plane as other customers due to, leg room, access to the lounges, etc. So United's doing a really good job of following Delta's lead in that. And I think all of these airlines are pretty much taking away from Southwest. Southwest is kind of the Greyhound bus in the sky. It's cheap to get on. They don't charge you for bags. There's really no differentiation that really matters in terms of a premium strategy. And so the travelers that are looking for premium and willing to pay up are gravitating towards United and Delta and are paying up and paying more money. And it's really showing through when you compare, just this is change in web visits for the airlines. You can see Southwest absolutely getting pummeled, falling way behind the competition as these airlines embrace a premium strategy. And so when we look at United, we look at a pretty strong and growing loyalty of a customer base. And we also see a company that's leaning into the right strategy at the right time and kind of taking it from, United used to be kind of the dog on our list of the airlines. And now they're making some serious moves to put them in contention and make them a real player along with Delta at the top of the heap.
Andy, I applaud United for their strategy during COVID, which was to buy new planes and get themselves ready for post-COVID, which they did, and they benefited from that. Now, I think their focus on international, much like Delta, gives them and Delta kind of a 1A and 1B relationship in terms of travel. But the thing that really jumped out at me with Delta's earnings report, and they're already preluding it or previewing it in United Airlines, is less capacity. They're talking about shrinking capacity in the second quarter, just like Delta said they were going to hold capacity flat during the second quarter. And say what you want, do I know why? It's counterintuitive. When they talk about less capacity, the stock rallies. When they talk about more, it sells off. And so that's the thing I'm watching for. That's the trigger here in these airlines is, are you adding or taking back capacity? And the articles I've read, it sounds like they're going to shrink some capacity in Q2, and that is incredibly bullish.
Yeah, it is counterintuitive. I think one of the things that we kind of have to get used to as investors is that, the airline business may actually be a profitable business after all. There, with the advent of the algorithms and the pricing mechanisms that they're able to employ, they're able to take advantage of premium customers. They're able to reduce capacity and create much more efficient routing. And so we could be at a point where the airline business isn't just, a government subsidized failing operation like it was 30, 40 years ago. And to get into that mindset, you do have to recognize that these companies are going for maximum efficiency. And in that, they have to reduce the routes that they're taking that don't have enough people on them. And then the people that are on board need to be, sharing as much of their wallet as possible with the company. So it's a totally new world for airlines. Southwest is way behind. United and Delta seem to be the only ones that really get it and are totally taking advantage of it. And we think that both of those companies are going to have a pretty positive 2025 as a result.
Andy, we haven't seen, TSA numbers fall. I was just in an airport yesterday. Flight's full. They're trying to, pay you to move to a different flight because they're so full. I mean, when you look at this, there's segments that are doing well. Business class, the premium outlet, they make more margin on those. Crude oil prices are down below $61 a barrel. That's going to be all margin for them. But then you start looking at, they keep on talking about the corporate side of the business. Have you guys seen any data that's reflective of any softening in demand across maybe the premium or corporate, bookings?
No, actually, it's just the opposite, which I was kind of surprised by. I think when you look at the app usage of United Airlines, that's many times the corporate kind of executive travel. That's up 15% year over year. Premium seating interest is on the rise. And so what we see is that the premium, recurring customer that's willing to pay up is coming back time and time again and willing to pay more for these flights. And so it puts United and Delta again in the driver's seat in terms of taking advantage of those economies of scale that they have and the efficiencies that they built in since COVID. So both of these, United and Delta on a pullback in terms of year to date, but both up on a 1 year basis. And we think this is a pretty good entry point for United Airlines. I would probably wait until after earnings. Let's see what they say. Let's see what they say about capacity and some of those other things. That normally you get an opportunity in airlines. They don't jump 10-15% normally on earnings. So I think you'll have an opportunity potentially to pick up shares of United if you're interested over the course of the remainder of this quarter.
All right, great stuff. Great data as always, Andy. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, that's Andy Swan, co-founder of LikeFolio, breaking down United Airlines.